I'm Seamless, and this is the 34th 75K tutorial. This one was requested by fetburner and is a Headhunterz thing, and it sounds like this. And what I got was this. Oh boy, that sounds like nothing at all. Like it was. This is a bit of a thing because I'm fairly certain when the guy gave me this, he probably would have preferred that I did the entirety of it. And when I say the entirety of it, is you listen to this, you're thinking to yourself, okay, cool, that's a layer, it's got some basses and the higher leads and whatever, and reverb everywhere, and all that stuff. But it's not actually a layer. I mean, it is a layer in the sense that two things are happening at once, but it's not a layer in the sense that it's the same thing. There is a progression, a lower thing going on, and then there's the that business, and then there's a whole lot of reverb. Now, I'm not actually going to give you a project or a patch for this because it is super duper simple, and I'm just going to explain to you what's happening, and then it's going to be the end of this video because I feel like being lazy today. So, saw wave. I'm using a saw wave, and I'm using citrus. I'm using an octave. So it's a saw wave and a first octave of the saw wave, easily accomplished in the oscillator tab with just adding an additional harmonic. And any other synth in the universe, you can just add another oscillator or just maybe do a layer of an octave, and that's your octave. Now, you want to go to the pitch mod of whatever thing you've got, and you want it to go from very low to very high very fast. In this particular instance, we're going up 2 octaves, just because. You can go higher than that with this little knob if you feel like it. But that gets to be a bit overkill. That pitch from low to high is what's causing the sort of the initial impact of the sounds you can see here. And there's also a little bit of that going on in the lows and the highs, and they're somewhat different. And I think they might actually be going in 2 different directions. But for the most part, it's a pitch motion, very fast pitch motion. And in fact, I have engaged high quality envelopes to happen live for Citrus so that we have that moving on. I've got 6 voices of Unison, a whole lot of just pitch and phase. If you're not familiar with what Unison does to saw waves, you're not familiar with the super saw concept, as I was not for a very long time, you really should experiment with different pitch depths. And also different phase positions. Because it will give you an incredibly large variety of sounds out of simply just 2 different, parameters. A whole bunch of sound design requests I get are usually just some kind of version of supersaws, and it's for people who just haven't taken the time to experiment to just see what saw waves sound like at various heights, various speeds, various depths, and it's just like that's like 60% of all sound design is supersaws. So if you get familiar with that, you're pretty far along. Now on the reverb bit, I do have a thing I want to show you about the reverb. So if you look at the analysis here, you can kind of see very clearly what's happening is that after the notes end, there's a brief moment of sort of volume, and then it brings back up almost like it's being sidechained. Let's get that breathing thing going on. You can accomplish that with automation just fine. You can write the line, put it in the playlist, and then just automate the up and up. But if you don't want to do that, there's a cool little trick you can do, where you can have it happen automatically. I have here a reverb, and I have here a peak controller. Can I actually change the size of this? Oh, I can. Wow. Freaky. But, can I change the size of this? Oh, it's just the two things. Yeah, okay. Weird. Things I learned about FL. But, I just love that so much. Wasting time. So, peak controller, what it does is that it reads the input of the level, and it outputs that level as control. Right now, I've moved it so that the bass is somewhere in the middle. You can actually see what it's doing. It's moving the wet value of the reverb. It doesn't do this by default, however. Usually, you see this darker line that's right there. That's the actual input that it's reading, and then through the peak control, tension, decay, and volume, and bass, and all that, you can actually change where the reading goes based on the input data. With the reverb on, you can see that it does that. Pretty cool stuff. In my opinion, I would probably use more direct, specific automation for this, just because I feel like there's still reverb going on in the middle of it all. And there's also probably white noise. I say probably because you can actually achieve the white noise effect quite easily with supersaws, because that's just what happens with the high frequency phase cancellation and reverb and that kind of thing. And then there's also the lower bass level tone, which probably has also a lot of high frequency content in there to mesh with the lead. And I have a feeling that the person who requested this was probably after, again, the whole thing, but I really only do individual sounds. But I still picked this because it involves a lot of basic ideas that people just are apparently lost on. I'm not saying the guy who requested this was lost on it, but I felt like this would be a good time to use this as a platform to explain the benefits and the coolness of supersaws and the simplicity of it all, and as well as pitch modulation, because that's something else people tend to miss, is like specific kinds of sounds can be accomplished quite easily by just having either, you know, down to up kind of stuff. This is your typical, you know, old school laser kind of thing from, you know, all of them. And then there's also the downfall, which is pretty similar to what you would do on a kick drum, that kind of thing, but on higher sounds, it can give you a lot of that kind of impact feel to just even normal melodic stuff. Something else to mess around is initial pitch modulation on some sounds. Something that honestly I as well didn't really mess around with a lot when I was learning, you know, my own sound design. It was just stuff that just didn't occur to me. And I'm not saying that it should have, I'm just saying that it doesn't. And so now perhaps this puts some ideas in your minds. Again, no preset because saw waves. The original song was Headhunterz Once Again. And you might be thinking that it's a hardstyle track because it's a Headhunter song, but it's not. Anyway, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. If you'd like to make a request for yourself, please do so. The Reddit thread linked in the description of this video. Please check out my Patreon page. As usual, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Did I already say that? I might have. And as usual, have a nice day. All that in a bag of chips.